Hello, Warlords! Welcome to Saga Thursday, the show all about the skirmish miniatures game from Studio Tomahawk. I'm your host, Rodge, joined by my good companion here, Mr. Monty, on another monthly episode. How's it going, Monty?
Excellent, Rodge. How about yourself?
I'm pretty darn good here. Spring's in full swing. People getting vaccinated. It's getting exciting. Getting the juices. In-person juices flowing here.
Right.
I've got plans to get a garage game in here, hopefully soon. I don't want to jinx it, but I might have an in-person game myself. So I'm getting pretty excited about that. What's been going on with you, Monty?
Yeah, kind of the same thoughts. I think I even accidentally made a joke in one of my tweets where I said something about looking forward to future meetups, but the language could have been a little more precise.
Gaming, I believe it was
meetups, not
fantasy
other kinds.
Meetups or something like that, yeah.
And so seriously, as the world starts looking a little, we're nudging towards normal. A couple people have pinged me, new players, people who want to try Saga, waiting for the first demo game. I mean, I'm ready to go, but we got to wait just a little bit more.
Just a bit more.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Well, we've got another good episode lined up for you here. We do have some interesting news to talk about. We'll get into the usual hobby, games, comments. I'll shoot a campaign update in there before the topic this time, which isn't really a topic. It's a gimme topic. I don't know how much we'll wax on it, but it's the 5-year anniversary of Saga Thursday, Monty.
Wow.
Is that weird to think about?
Yeah, that's a remarkable run, Raj, and a credit to you. It is a hell of a lot of work. I know it, and I don't even do it. And you've kept it going. You've been a machine, dropping episode after episode, and version 1, version 2, you just got it all covered.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I do have some thoughts on that, but why don't we jump in to the news here? So we've been denied Age of Invasions yet again, and a FAQ update. Nothing since last time. But we do actually kind of have a little FAQ update here. So somehow it came up and it got escalated to the top echelon, Mr. Alex Bouchal, but there was a question about abilities that activate all your units. And per the FAQ, 2019, if an ability says all, you have to be able to do all in order to use the ability. So if it says pick up 4 Saga dice, if you don't have 4 extra Saga dice, you can't use it. If you only have 3 Saga dice, that's not good enough. You have to be able to use 4. Just a little weird example. So the question was, if you have an exhausted unit or a mercenary unit, so an exhausted unit can't be activated. A merc, per their rules, can't be activated by Saga abilities. Can you still use those abilities, or are you denied based off that FAQ ruling? And Monty, what did Alex Bouchal say? I believe this was posted on Facebook.
Right.
So it's Facebook official. It's not FAQ official, but this is the intent and presumably what we'll see when the FAQ does come out.
My gosh, now I wish I could remember where I filed it.
If you don't have it, I mean, he has a paragraph response, but essentially, if you have an exhausted unit, you cannot use abilities which activate them, which activate everybody because they don't meet the requirements, unless they could activate for a rest. So there is, exhausted units can only activate to rest. So there could be a circumstance, like if they're exhausted from last turn, and then an ability says activate all your units to do whatever you want. You could have that one unit rest, and then everybody else does other stuff. But
bingo.
Hopefully that didn't muddy the waters there. But so like the Welsh, do the Welsh have an ability like that?
Yes, they do.
Now
they do.
The Ordenstad, I think,
they do
got
too.
The boards here, yeah. Activate all your units for a move.
Yep.
So, I don't think that's come up at all in our games, but it's something to keep an eye on.
But like you said, since mercenaries can't be activated by an advanced ability, then they don't trip each other up, right? They're independent. The merc doesn't move, everyone else moves, you still meet the spirit?
Well, yeah, so that's the second part of the ruling. So, yeah, that's interesting that he decided that. So the mercenaries he decided were separate from all your units. So they're being unable to activate this inherently does not prevent you from using an ability which would activate all your units just by having a merc on the field. So in some ways, those are kind of counterintuitive. Is that the right
It is
word?
A little bit, yes.
I mean, it's kind of ruling one way in this circumstance and another way in another circumstance. And it was weird because we had just talked about last episode about with the pilgrims and the fact ruling said use it all, but then with the pilgrims, you don't have to, if you kill 8 pilgrims and you would get 8 Saga dice,
right?
You could say, well, you can't do that. But then it has a specific ruling saying, if you only have 3, you could take 3 dice.
Exactly.
So unfortunately, there's a little, I guess, inconsistency, I would say, but as long as everybody is on board and understands. So if you have those abilities on your board, or your opponent does, you might want to kind of clear that up at the start of the game. Make sure everybody's aware of how you do it. And then the other thing is, if you don't like that, you don't have to play that way. If you and your opponent decide on that's dumb, or mercs should count, or you want to be able to activate everybody even if someone's exhausted, go for it. I think that's fine to play. Somehow we've made it maybe 3 years with second edition.
Yep.
And it hasn't come up. So anyways, well, you learn something new every day though, Monty.
Yes, you do. Gotta always have your ear to the ground for the hot saga news and rulings.
And the ruling. All right. So that's it for the news. No new events since last time. And let's move on to some comments here. So we've got X-Tycho N. X-Tycho N. Here's my attempt to make it to the top 3 comments section. Very interesting discussion on oils. I've been eyeing those for quite some time already. The smoothness of blending that can be achieved can't beat anything I can produce with acrylics, sadly. And I got to bite the bullet finally. Just can't decide on the starter set colors. And then he links a video to some amazing introduction to oil painting. Monty, did you just happen to click over it?
I have not. That looks like something I should check out. Yeah,
it's interesting. I actually had watched that video. So that was one of like 3 different oil videos I ended up watching. And it's really interesting. It's a really good starter guide and everything. I guess as far as starter set colors, I just have the Winsor Newton starter set. I think it was $30-$40. And I think did you say that you had that one,
I do.
Essentially?
They're almost never used. I used the burnt umber or the dark run once, but they've just they haven't. I'm going to try them. I mean, seriously, I really will.
Okay, yeah. So I think that's a good place to start. I did have to, I don't know if I bought like a flesh tone or maybe an orange. I did buy 1 or 2 other paints in addition to that, but it's a good set. There's 2 blues in it, and I don't like either of the blues, so I need a new blue. The greens are okay. It's like any set of paint. Let's see. Well, it's not the exact green that I prefer. I'm sure there's some other one. Well, none of these Winsor Newton greens are the ones. I may have to go to Liquitex, oils, and the tubes are a lot bigger, so your collection could get out of hand way quicker. Well, this is addition to all your acrylics. I mean, you're not going to throw away all your acrylics. No. So, but I don't think any gamers need an excuse to pick up more paint, but I guess this is one. So, thanks for chiming in. He's painting Carthaginians, so good luck there.
Good choice.
Yes. And Mark Darling chiming in.
Yep.
Comment regular. My guess, and it's just a guess, Sassanid Persians. So that was the trying to figure out what the 8th faction is going to be in Age of Invasion. So we still don't know on that, as far as I can tell. We figured out the other one was the Franks, but there's quite a few options to choose from. So hopefully we'll find out soon. Thanks for chiming in, Mark. Keeping the excitement alive. And then great comment here from Sean Mooney. So I haven't seen him post for a while, so it's good to see him again.
Yep.
And he waxes quite eloquently here, so I'm not going to read the entire comment, but it's worth looking into. He's just kind of talking about mercs and how you can use the mercs to add a thematic element. So he's a high-quality painter. And so he's talking in his Pagan Rus war band. He uses a point of Galgadel to act as the Bogatyr, which is some kind of Rus or Slavic mythical unit, analogous to Western Europe's knight errants, like Roland and Arthur. So I think that's cool. I've seen, was it Chris Hainza? I think he did some sword maidens to go along with his Welsh. So you like theme them specifically to his war band. So I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Monty? Have you ever done anything like that?
I mean, nothing to come within a step of what Sean does. Sean's stuff, if you really want to take a deep dive and see like examples of what he does, he posts up deep dives with unit builds, head swaps, green stuff, as he builds these things over months and months. He does that on the Studio Tomahawk forum under the Kyote, Kyote, and he also posts up in the Lead Adventures forum. And it's really kind of eye-opening to see just how he tries things. He puts them together, time goes by, he throws that, brings in another option. I mean, he is serious. I mean, he's like, it might be a warband a year, but it is a hell of a warband when it's done.
Yeah, the building,
yes.
And on it, it's like conversions that
every model
don't need to be converted, meant in the best possible way. They don't need to be conversions, but he converted them, and it looks cool. He's pulling bits from different kits, and putting things together. So yeah, I referenced his pagan. I don't know if it was a Rus war band, but pagan peoples he had mounted, like Eastern princes. He had a kit bash from the Ripping Beast Arab kits that were awesome. So, check out his post here. It's a good read. And then Monty, I don't know, is this official? Adepticon 2022 announcement here about baggage scenarios. Baggage is back.
Yeah, so this is just one voice. The way it's set up, we have 4 leads, and everyone's going to decide. And I'm not generally a decider. I've kind of been an advisor and a helper, and I work on writing up the scenarios. But when we all kind of brainstorm together, I plan to recommend the ambush scenario very highly. I think he mentions that we were missing the baggage and the objective mark ones, and I think it was just a reflection in the latest Adepticon Saga Grand Melees we had, and I think that was just a reflection of the scenarios that we had. But I fully believe in the next one we do in 2022, there are so many good objective scenarios, and there is a very good ambush scenario that requires a baggage. I think they'll be back in 4 days of events. I can't see how they wouldn't sneak back in one of those 4-day events.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm assuming I'm on for a Thursday event.
Yes,
for next
as
year.
Always, we have those narrative events, one of a kind.
I was planning to use the ambush as my first scenario.
Nice. Let me write it down so I can get a leg up.
Yeah. But yeah, like you said, I think it's a good scenario. We'll probably touch on it again later when we're talking about the campaign. But hey, the baggage moves quick, and you got to move quick too. And the game's over before you know it. Really interesting that it's only 5 turns, and you move on. I don't know. They could have made it longer, but we're booking. Get it done.
So Raj, I'm just throwing it out here because like I try to, like you, read as written, right?
Hmm.
I had another player in Discord, and actually a big German player saying that he was pretty sure it was supposed to be 6 and there's a translation issue. And I scratched my head and I'm like, I'm okay either way. Like, I mean, right now it reads 5 and you have to move fast. You have to move very fast and you will probably finish that game even at an event, right? That's how fast it moves in 2 hours.
Yeah, and obviously, I think you could play it either way, 5 or 6 turns. I do
Right.
think with 5 turns, it pushes you a little bit more towards actually going for the objectives,
Yep.
which I like, versus
Same.
beating up on the other guy and just getting one objective or no objectives. You got to just move a little quicker. Kind of
Agreed.
make decisions.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, those are the comments from last time. If you'd like to chime in the next episode, please post below. We're going to have a variety of topics, I am sure. But okay, let's move on to some hobby stuff here, Monty. What
Yes.
you been working on?
March was another good month. It kind of helps get a little wind in your sails, a little bit of what we're doing through Tabletop Simulator, looking out in the world and seeing there will come a day when maybe, you can take your stuff out. So my big accomplishments in March, and it's actually not my photo, but I did roughly finish my Carthaginian warband, and I took them out and proxied them as Greeks in one of my games. And a buddy of mine saw him and he loved them to death. So we had a little talk, and the Carthaginians got one run out and they now have a new owner, which is okay. My buddy is very happy. I was very happy to kind of do it because it kind of scopes me back to my Gauls, which have been just sitting here since December. I haven't even opened them up. So by getting out of the Carthaginians, I got a fire under me to get the Gauls going, so that worked.
Monty, I thought I saw a comment about Numidians.
Oh, that's what I'm working on right now.
What's going on here?
Well, it's a factory. Got to keep it going. So my Numidians are at my elbow. They're going to be done pretty quickly. I got another 20 mounted warriors, and that gets me a playable force. But then I get over to my Gauls. But in the background, inspired by our, the beatdowns that the Crusaders are suffering, I started thinking, and I thought maybe pilgrims are the answer, maybe even fanatical pilgrims. So I bought, you'll see from my picture, I bought the Fireforged Northman folk rabble. And I just happened to see them, and they look so colorful. They look like they're angry people coming right off from the farm fields with all their farm implements. And I put them together. I bashed them up. I painted them in like a weekend. They went very quick. And then to kind of lift them up a little bit, because I did speed paint them, because I don't know how many times I'm going to use them. I mean, honestly, I'm not sure that, Pilgrims is going to be a heavy use build. But I did go in there and I did a little bit of rust with Vallejo's rust pigment. And I did a little bit of stippling with the mud and just kind of dirtied them up a little bit, and boom, 18 pilgrims that I can use as a fanatic or regular.
Yeah, these are cool models. I'm definitely going to get a kit. I mean, some of these straight up, I could just mix them into my warband, the pagan peoples for sure,
Right.
Some of the archers here. Like, I think I might need like another 4 or something like that. So it's kind of a weird number, but looks like there's enough bows in here. You can just mix them in. Looks like there's a couple dames in here.
Yep.
As well. I think they look great. Nice and colorful. I like use of the aqua on this guy. And it looks actually like a lot of blue greens actually you went.
Yeah, I did.
This gang here.
I kept it a little tight.
Mm-hmm. That looks cool. Yellow, everything. It's a great little set. And, that's cool. I'm glad you got the pilgrims. I'm kind of feeling here, Monty, that the finale for the campaign might have to be an in-person game. Don't you?
Yes.
You kind of feel that?
Yeah, that would be awesome, dude. Oh, wow.
So, got to make sure you have the right troops on hand. Although if that one's an epic Saga game, we're going to need a lot of troops. It's going to be a lot of pain. So we'll have to think about the logistics on that one, before we agree to that. But cool. Well, that is awesome. I'm glad the Carthaginians are done. Yeah. Another month, another army. Monty's moving on. And even got a little something extra here. So very cool. Monty, did you see my picks here? So let's start with the before and after guy here.
Oh, I love that one. That is so good.
Yeah, so I want to do some painting. I don't know. Since last month, I've been working on a few different things, and I ended up kind of dabbling a little bit here in a few different things. So I talked about wanting to do some videos with oils, and so like my pagan peoples, I'm not, in the last batch I kind of did some highlights with oils, but it could have been done with acrylic paint. There's no specific reason to use those. So I tried to come up with a couple things that I could do to use the oils and tried to document it for a potential video here. So first attempt here was this little guy. So I ended up getting my buddy J-Jack. You know J-Jack?
I've heard his name, but I don't think I would. Yeah,
it's probably been on event rosters that I've been at, but
right.
So he gave me a ton of old Gripping Beast models that like he wasn't going to use. So I passed out 3 war bands to the local boys, and then I just kept a few models here. So one of them was this guy.
Nice.
And that paint job is just what he had on him. So I thought I would just refurbish him, and he would make a good model for if I wanted to use him for the feud scenario.
Yep.
Make a great pick. Or, as a warlord. So I kind of, this was like a refurbish project, so I just painted over what was already there, basically. So this is Gripping Beasts. This is like a Mercian model, an Anglo-Saxon. So I think you said he originally had a spear.
Yes,
Monty,
he has they give you a spear that he hangs over like his shoulder, but the Dane axe is much more badass.
Okay, yeah. For some reason I thought he had an axe, and just something about the hand. Like I've seen those models, and I wish I would have. Something about the hand didn't suggest over the shoulder to me, and more like just resting it on the axe blade. So I went with that approach. Looks nice and at rest with the shield there. And this guy, he was painted with oils. Like I did some highlights, but I don't know that it really showcased, what the oils can do necessarily. And some of my video got a little messed up. So there won't be a video about this guy, but that's just something that I did. It was a fun little project. And I decided the way that he turned out in those colors, they don't really jive with the rest of my peoples, just the methods and stuff like that, because I'm using an airbrush on them. So I'm open to getting rid of this guy, passing him on. So I'm going to trade him for a set of Eastern Saga dice. If someone will mail me a set of Eastern Saga dice, I will mail this guy back to you. So I'm throwing that out there. So it was a fun little project, and then I think I've really talked about it, but I kind of have a goal of this year to be budget neutral in the hobby. So I'm going to sell as much stuff as I purchase. So weird little trades like this, I'm down for in 2021. So the Eastern dice, those are the ones the Mongols, the pagan peoples, and the Eastern princes use. So if you got a set of those and you want this lovely model here, we can make a trade, make a deal.
Nice.
Send me a message.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, I think so. So that was fun. Now the second thing I painted was out of left field here. Wouldn't you say, Monty?
Yeah.
Okay,
I love it.
These are footsore models. So I actually don't own a lot of these. I don't really know why, but I just don't. But I picked up these. These are Irish or maybe Norsescale Hearthguard. I think they're intended to be Irish on the box, I believe. And I had these sitting around kind of in my bits box for a couple of years now. I picked them up, got a good deal on them for no apparent reason. And, you know how that goes, Monty. And just with their little tunics and cloaks and stuff, I thought they would be a good showcase for the oils. And I think they turned out good. I was just kind of having some fun here. So Irish, I don't know, I think we talked about it at some point, green and yellow. That's what they're supposed to be, or, I'm not really sure about that. So I painted them green and yellow, just trying different things. And there will be a video about these guys. Now, this is kind of at the opposite spectrum where I'm drowning in video footage. So before next episode, hopefully. But I did send you just a little quick
11 minutes, 10
teaser
minutes.
Of painting one of these yellow guys here, Monty. So what did you from what I described last time and what you saw, like what, I don't know.
It really helps, Rodge. I mean, here's the thing. I got the video before I got the picture. And when you started out and you were dabbling on yellow, and then you put the yellow, and then you brought in red, and you were putting it like as a shadow, like I was watching it and I was like, well, red is an interesting shadow. But I was just kind of flummoxed. I'm like, well, how does this work? And then very quickly you showed how you bring them together, you blend them, you work it, and how, I don't want to say easy, but you had a vision and it was clear that you knew what you were doing and you got in there and you made it all work. And I was like, wow, okay, now I understand this. I understand, the idea of kind of getting a wet, fast blend working with oils, how that works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this will be described more in the video too, but just resisting the temptation to thin down the oils just to get a really bright look, because the other oil stuff I've done so far has ended up kind of desaturated in the end, which is fine, if that's the kind of look you're going for. So I really tried to leave the oils intact. They want to be translucent, right? If you thin them down, but if you leave them, they can be pretty opaque. And I wasn't sure at first how these would turn out. I was with those colors, Monty. I was like, "Wow, that's interesting." I decided I do like it.
Yeah.
Now that I'm done here, but I wasn't sure when I was doing it, and So this was a fun little project. These guys, maybe I'll hold on to. I don't know. If somebody wants to send me a message with an offer, I don't know. I don't know. I like how they turned out. I don't foresee working on any more Irish or anything like that for a while. I mean, I do like the War Games Atlantic plastics, Monty. Those are nice. So this is pretty good for test schemes. I think what this does do is this is probably going to be the method I use for the Carthaginian army when it gets ready here.
Okay.
Because I want to do the units one at a time. And I kind of like painting models one at a time when it comes down to it. So this technique, I think, is good for painting models one at a time.
Yeah.
And it was fun. And as far as progress on the pagan peoples, I did finish highlighting like the last 8 warriors that I had started before. So they turned out the same, as the other guy. This is the
good
fourth batch. They're not any different than the prior 3 batches. So they turned out well. And then I kind of thought more about where they're going. So right now I'm trying to finish up this Infinity Warband. So I'm down to like the last batch of those guys. So I'm like, well, I'll just finish those real quick. And then, I'm dabbling with these Saga guys. And then once those are done, I'll get back to the peoples. And then the other thing too is we're kind of, the Vex. I don't know. If you are vaccine or you're scheduled? I'm a younger fella.
I got me in as an old man.
Okay, yeah, my wife got in. Just depending what your conditions
Teacher,
are, what state you're in.
Yeah.
But it looks like I won't be till May. So my goal is to get a playable painted warband now for the pagan peoples and for a Viking warband. Just have the two options using almost the same models. So I come out of it, with a completely new, Infinity warband, and then I have completely playable Viking and Crusade warbands. So that's kind of my goal. So it'd be pretty close. Goal. Yeah. So it's a little bit more than what I said last time. So it'll be 8 warriors, 6 heavy weapon Hearthguard, and then 6 cav. Okay. And that will allow for quite a few pagan peoples variants. And then I can run with Age of Vikings, just using Vikings. I can run a 12 levy, a unit of 4 Hearthguard, the Berserkers, which will also be pagan people, heavy weapon Hearthguard models, and then the rest warriors. So that's the plan right now. I just got a little batch of robots to finish, and then I'm going to be jumping on those. And I'm looking forward to it. With feeling I might need to take a week or two of vacation at the end there to meet the deadline. But I think that'll be a goal. I kind of need little extra deadlines to get me to really finish stuff. And doesn't look like any tournaments are going to be up quite yet, but I think that'll be good. So
yeah, good plan.
Forward to that, Monty. And glad to hear you got your juice, got your back juice. That's awesome. Why don't we talk about some games here, Monty? So you've been a busy fellow. What have you been up to for games?
I have. I will name one of my last 2 games.
Sure.
I've been kind of fortunate here for a number of reasons. I did get out to play my. I used my Carthaginians to proxy as Epirote Greeks, and I played against my friend Scott's wonderful Iberians in the scenario Desecration. And Desecration is another one of those objective-based games. I love the objective-based games because you got to get up off your butt. You got to do things. And in Desecration, you have 3 objective markers you place. Your opponent places 3. And the goal really is you're trying to kill each other, but you're simultaneously having to try to protect your objectives and go attack, and push a hit through, an unlocked hit on his. And based on your success or failure at getting those objectives open, busting them, your slaughter points are capped. So like if you get none, you're going to lose the game. Like even if you kill this whole warband, you crack none, you're going to lose. So you need to, so you got many things going on. You put your 3 out, he puts his 3 out. I'm trying to attack him. I'm trying to, you know what I mean? It's just, there's many things. So it kind of gets your brain going. Anyways, I knew this would be tough because the Iberians collect and put guerrilla, bank it during their turn, and then they spend it in your turn. And so Scott very cleverly put 2 of his objectives on his left flank, and then right next to them, he put 2 slinger warrior units. And then he had his whole army ready that was a little mobile that could kind of shift over. And I saw 2 objectives, so I put a major drive on there. And a little too late, I realized I kind of fell into his trap because number one, yes, he was shooting me. I expected that. But because I was bunched up, both fighting him, javelining him with my levy javelin and trying to take the objectives, he could pop, I'm trying to remember, it's called bait. And bait gives him guerrilla markers for each unit that's within M. And he would sit there and he'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I count as 6. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm just handing him the game on a silver platter, right? And I was already handing them to them. So it wasn't like I could really disperse my army. I couldn't spend dice to pull back. So as soon as he was getting 6 or 8 a turn, I'd go to have my turn. I move up my levy. I move up and I go to make my free shoot. And he pulls 2 and he goes, and we're going to charge now. Now that your move is done, we're going to charge. I'm like, oh my gosh, right. So he pops my levy unit with a fierce charge, sends them reeling. Now they have a fatigue. And then I looked and my plan was to move another unit up and shoot. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. So the whole guerrilla marker gets in your head, messes you up. And the game is wobbling into the L category for me, but I had one wonderful moment, turn 4, like having played Desecration before. I'm like, Monty, what's the goal? You got to pop the objective. So turn 4, I stop chasing him and I send everything to pop. I send attacks on all 3 objectives. And lo and behold, I pop all 3 in a turn. And so now, right, the wind is at my back, even though I'm losing the massacre points. So turn 5, he hasn't, so turn 4, he hasn't popped anything. He's hammering my army. Turn 5, my turn comes, and he has 8 guerrilla markers banked. And it's turn 5, he has none of the objective pops. And I look, and I think for a moment, I'm like, I do not want to give him 4 free activations to go start chasing the objectives. I figure he's going to think he has 2 turns. He's going to chase him in my turn, and then he's going to pop him in his turn. So, Rodge, I rolled my dice, I set him, and then I passed. I didn't move anything because that killed his 8 guerrilla markers, right? I mean, it killed my turn, right? But I was betting, well, now you got turn 5, you got to crack 3, and if you don't, and the game ends, then I'm going to win. And sure enough, that's what happened. He took a run at all of them. He popped 1. We do the roll to see if the game ends, and the game ended. And we just like, the game ended, and I was like, oh, thank goodness, because then turn 6, I don't have much of an army left anymore, so I don't know if I could have stopped him from grabbing the other 2. But it was one of those fun ones, Rodge, where it's on a wire. It's falling apart. He's doing things that I haven't quite sussed out. The guerrilla markers mean he can do so many things. It's hard to figure out where the threat's going to come from. So when the game was over, I went home. I was kind of exhausted, happy to sneak out a win, and a lot of fun. So that's me.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a bold move. The pass. So
desperate.
Sometimes, people got certain reactions. So like against when you play the Crusaders, that's come up a couple of times where if there's an activation reaction to move, if they don't use it early, you can just, I'm done, and they don't get to use it. Now in this case, there's a much bigger reward for that kind of play, but that's really cool. That's interesting. And I think that makes sense. Saga, you got to know when to attack and then know when to oftentimes retreat, pull back. So that's something I've kind of learned over the last couple of years, is when to move away from the enemy or when not to move towards them. You don't have to be moving towards them always. So that's cool that worked out for you. So I got in a game myself. And this was Tabletop Simulator against Artur from Russia.
Yep.
And
Moscow.
he was playing as Anglo-Saxons. So I think he's on the Discord server. And, you'll see Proclaim the Year of Anglo-Saxons multiple times. And so I played Vikings, just trying to get back. So I wanted to try at least this build once before So this is the build that I was thinking I would use with my army that I'm building. So it's just 1 unit of levy, because I think 2 can be nice, but there's too many armies where you would rather have more warriors and not the levy, So, and even just having 1 levy can kind of trip up folks when they're going against the Vikings. They don't expect that. So,
agreed.
1 unit of levy with javelins. I had the berserkers. And then I had the rest warriors. It says 32 warriors, and I put them in 4 groups of 5, and then 1 group of 12. So that was the style. So the idea there is, we know that the berserkers are scary, and you don't want to get close to them. They can do out a ton of damage. But that 12-man warrior unit, you can basically put out a very similar number of attacks. Like if you were to go all in with Valhalla, they generate 12, you could get to 24 with them, and then with rerolls and stuff. So you have two units there. 8-pack of Hearthguard doesn't want to get close to.
Yes.
So this game we did, I think, feasting and pillaging, where you got to grab 3 objectives and then pull them back to your deployment zone.
Mm-hmm.
So this game, it went pretty quick. There actually wasn't that much fighting. So I got to kind of see how he's running them, and I think we talked a little bit, but how maybe you've run them in the past too. So they need the rare on their board to turn these farmers into warriors.
Right.
So everything kind of rests on the rare. I mean, because their attack goes from 6 to 12 dice.
Yep.
So that's really huge. And his build was 3 units of levy with, the spear guys, 1 unit of archers, and then the 2 Hearthguard and 1 pack of 8 mounted.
Yep.
So I think that's a really solid build. So the way that it worked out is if you get the rare, you can do your attacks like you planned. If you don't get the rare, you can overactivate the archers because they're easy to activate. It doesn't take, you can just use your commons, uncommons. They all activate. That's the problem sometimes with other people using levy, is you have to use your uncommons and rares and you don't necessarily get them. So you can always do that. And then you can always, you have that 8-pack of Hearthguard, and it's easy to get a double move for no fatigue.
Yep.
So that's a great setup, and kind of shows how certain boards need a rare. And so you need to have a plan if you don't get the rare, I guess. Mm-hmm. And we kind of talked about this with the Ordenstat a little bit. It's so good with the rare, the Knock Osten. Well, what if you don't get it? I mean, you're not going to get it every turn. So what's the plan going to be if those rares don't show up? So I thought he had a great setup. Now this one, like I said, we didn't fight that much. I went first. I ended up, basically, I was just going for the objectives with my little units, and he kind of held back a little bit, but those archers levy shot the hell out of my warriors on the first turn. I was using a fatigue every time, so I'm going from 4 to 5s, and I think he still, over 4 activations, killed 10 or 11 warriors. So I was down 3 Saga dice, because there was 3 objectives, and I ran 2 warriors packs, the 2 units of 5 at each, and then I was down, 3 of them were knocked down. So it actually, I started with great dice generation, and then I'm like, oh, I'm down to 5 already. This, I don't like this. It's only my second turn. So I'm like, well, I can't engage now. These would be my suicide units, but there's no guys left to suicide. So now it's just grab the objectives and pull back. And I almost got one off. So I was just using all my dice for activations and movement, basically, not even fighting. So one unit almost got off. It didn't quite have the right symbols to march him off. And then so he brought his Hearthguard over. It was a triple move, I think, to bring him in and take that unit. But I was able to use Valhalla and take out a few of the Hearthguard on my way down. Now here's the most interesting thing, Monty, that you'll probably never hear again, but my unit of Berserkers managed to defeat a unit with the objective, and then I was able to get them off the board to object. So that was one of my only units alive at the end, was a unit of 2 Berserkers with the objective.
So, I love it.
that was pretty awesome. Yeah, we had some good fights in the middle. I probably could have made it a draw if they would have went a little bit better, but he was closing ranks always, and to get them under combat strength, you want to get them down to 5 so they don't generate. And if you're closing rank, you can't kill 7 on one go. That's, even the Vikings find that pretty difficult. So a couple of the fights didn't go my way. I know. So the big 12 pack was basically on one flank, lined up against a spear levy. It's just like you or me, like we're gonna take the objective. And so I charged him in, and I'm like, this is so stupid. Like, I don't want to do this. It's not fair, but I have to Valhalla and kill 3 warriors. Like, it's not right. There's definitely, you don't want to use that ability when you're playing against Anglo-Saxons.
Levy,
but
right.
They had a fatigue on him, and if I can just get him down to under 6, he won't generate a die. So I'll have that. I'll have the objective. And then the unit will be too small to, there's a couple different ways they can soup it back up.
Right.
But it'll be devastated. And even though I had to sacrifice 3 guys, it'll be worth it. So I went in, 21 attacks, hitting on 3s. He had 3 attacks, hitting on 4s. So I think we can see where this is going. So I sacrificed 3 warriors. So they're dead. With his attacks, 3 hits, and 2 dead warriors. I think I saved 1.
Right.
And then, some lackluster hits, and then he saves a bunch. So I kill 4 levy.
Wow.
So I went in, I lost 5 warriors, and he lost 4 levy. And
wow.
That one hurt a little bit.
That hurts.
It was a sting to peel the guys off for Valhalla, but I just felt I had to. And but it was really interesting. So he was able to get that objective back, and he took it pretty handily. But I learned a lot, and I think playing just a straight battle next time, I think I'd like to do that. I think I could, with the Vikings, it would be very interesting. So what I would do is load up, I think it's Odin, whatever the one that stops the shooting.
Yes.
Obviously. So that'll eliminate that option for him.
Yep.
And then when he comes in, I'll load up my board, and then I'll kind of just sit there, I'm thinking. So maybe I'll charge, maybe I won't, but I'll have a full board. And then he can come in on my turn with his attacks, and then I'll use Valhalla. If I'm going to die anyways, that's then I'll use Valhalla.
Yep.
And try to do as much damage when he's coming at me, because then at least he's not closing ranks. So if I could get him to charge me, that's when I'll try to do my damage rather than try to.
I like that plan.
Go against him, and the body count, the attrition, it's tough to go against, but I think we could have a real go of it, doing something like that. So I'm excited to try that again. And that was my game. A loss, but fun. And
nice.
There was another tabletop simulator game I got in, Monty. It was against you for the campaign. So a little update. The video was posted for that one as well. So I'm assuming folks have watched that. If you want the blow-by-blow, check it out. So Monty picked up Ambush for this one with the baggage here. So fun scenario. I was forbidden from taking levies. So that was fun to see how that worked out. I think the scenario kind of benefited using the archers of Agincourt against the French knights making their way across. What did you think about that game, Monty? Any thoughts since?
Sure. Many thoughts, but I'll just limit it to a few. Yeah. That is actually that is a good example of losing the game at deployment. That was on me. I had an idea. See, it always starts with an idea. I think the general idea was good. I keep trying to pick scenarios where you can't just sit in terrain and shoot me down. I try to pick scenarios where you got to get up and move to kind of, to like not let you do some of your best things. And I think I think one of a series of mistakes was like capping you from using levy. I'd gotten kicked around by levy a couple games, so I thought, oh, the secret is taking away the levy. Well, that seriously did not work because you brought in a plethora of bow warriors, and they just they wrecked my day. When I saw you had put your army on the table, I looked at it. I'm going to be honest, I was a little puzzled because I didn't think you had enough heft in there to be able to, like with the small 5-pack warrior units, a Hearthguard by itself, 4-pack, another Hearthguard, heavy weapon by itself. I didn't think you had anything that could crack the wagon in one go. My experience had been like, if you can get 12 dice on it, you have a reasonable chance of cracking it. If you send 8, you're generally not going to get it. So when I saw your deployment, like I didn't quite see the trap. I didn't quite see the way you deploy it gave you like maximum survival points. And I'm like, okay, you got a lot of bow, so I will just dismount, go on foot, and create units big enough to crack the wagons. And then from, I think pretty much as I was coming on the table, the way you had enough rares to get all those small units up, you got them up into shooting range. The killing range was right where the wagons are going to be. And pretty quickly, it occurred to me that it was not going to be good. It was just not going to be good. It was going to be like Argencourt. I was going to moving into your field of fire. I had to chase the carts. You could ignore them and win based on your survival points. Yeah, it was like a slow realization that I kind of lost it at deployment. So,
yeah, and it ended up being a good scenario for the plethora of archers because you could either ignore the baggage and come after my juicy little units, and I had basically kind of claimed one already, so
it went down fast.
You were down a big chunk of point. Yeah,
I didn't think you could crack it in one go, but heavy weapon and your board gave you the dice to do it.
Yeah, I had 10 attacks, so I was planning to just kind of wear it down. It was just, if I took more, I'd throw the archers in, just get the one through.
Right.
And it worked out pretty darn well. And I think I'm just a mix of everything. So I could do 2 points of levy, 2 points of warriors, and then 2 points of Hearthguard. I think would have a nice, well-balanced list. I liked having, again, the big 12-pack of archers.
Right.
So warrior archers. So that kind of, had the backup plan if I don't get the rares. I kind of really, at least one rare to get the juice out of those, all the multiple units. More rares, the better. But, sometimes, if you get 2, that board is, pretty top notch. 1, you can definitely make it work. But what if you don't get any? You get 3 turns in a row without any. So I had this archer unit that I could activate multiple times to do something if I needed to, and then you came across as a juicy target. Like you did come across and smash that one up at least. And I think you shot him down first and then smashed him up and got him.
Right.
I think you killed them all in one go. So the mission kind of accomplished there. A couple of things I was thinking about. So one, I talked about, I need to think more about the terrain and where it's going. So just making sure I have terrain that I can teleport across, and then when I'm putting the train down, just factoring in, depending, who's going to move it. And if you move it, being like, well, I have it in a perfect spot here, but like, then you moved it. And I was like, oh yeah. So I could have put it in more towards the middle or something, and then would have blocked you a little bit more. The other thing too is I think you can actually make, if you have cavalry, you can make I could have made a first turn run at the baggage pretty safely, I think, actually, because you move on. So it has to be cav.
Right.
If you have javelins, even better, because you need a little extra juice to take it out. But so you don't have any Saga dice, but you have the warlord and a wheel bay. So you bring on a cav unit, bring on your warlord. They start over 18 inches away. They will be over 6 inches away. You can move closer. So you come on at the point, but you can kind of come in at an angle.
Yep.
So this is supposing there's no terrain, and then that the baggage kind of move. Even if it doesn't move, you can get it.
Yep.
We obey the Hearthguard in right away. They do their attacks. Maybe you'll get lucky. You'll have a fatigue on you. Your opponent will probably. Did we decide that you couldn't spend it? Or is that in the rules that you couldn't spend it? Or
yeah, Rodge, it's funny. It's not super clear. I know when you are trying to break objectives, the objective can't spend your fatigue. And so when we were just sussing it out, my buddy and I, we were like, would a wagon train know to spend your fatigue? So we've been neutral to it. We don't do it, but maybe someone else plays it different or it's clear to them. Not to me.
Yeah. And even if they do spend it, maybe it's not that bad. You get the fatigue off your Hearthguard then, and you're going to be hitting on 6s or 5s if you have javelins. Right. So you send the Hearthguard in. Maybe they do it. If you have the 12 attacks, if you have a full Hearthguard,
yeah.
Especially if you have javelins, you could probably pop it in one.
Agree.
If it doesn't work, then you send the Warlord in,
yep.
and then he finishes off, and then he takes it. You're kind of going to pull that out of the game then, essentially, because it's going to be on foot.
Yeah.
But like in our game, I didn't think about that at all, but I could have done that. Yeah, I could have brought him on. I could have done that. And then there wouldn't have been any way that you could have gotten across.
No.
With, like, maybe you could have made a beeline across. But it really kind of depends.
I couldn't, Rodge, because I dismounted everything because I saw all the archers and I knew that I was going to be having to deal with being shot off my horses with waves of shooting. So by having like no real I had 4 mounted warriors. That wasn't going to do anything. So if you did that, you're up at that end of the table. My carts are going to come. They're going to kind of cut in front of my path. And now I got to walk all the way to where you're at.
Yeah. So depending where the carts end up, where there's terrain, like you might not be able to physically get across.
Right.
And again, one of them would have to be your Warlord, or you'd have to put your Warlord out in order to slingshot a unit over. But so you could do the Warlord first and then put the Hearthguard in. Or, this is presuming Hearthguard. This is just based off what I have. But
yeah.
Obviously you didn't want the Warlord to grab it, but if he does, you get it. And then like in our game, I had a forest right there, so on the next turn I could have just walked into the forest, and like that was the end of it.
Kind of was.
So you have an option to go at it, I think, on the first turn, if you've got the guts and the courage,
and the pagan people.
And then if not, then it's going to be exhausted, and kind of the way that you're going to be sitting in front of it, so it's not going to get away. And kind of just I kind of pinned that one in our game where it kind of just stayed by those woods, and so there's like a benefit to that too.
Yeah, that's right.
So that was interesting. Monty, how are we going to even this up here for our next game? I don't know.
Maybe you put a blindfold on and we play.
Well, I've got a couple ideas.
Oh, do you? Okay, I'm going to get a pen here. I'm going to write this down.
Well, I offered to play Eastern Princes in our next game.
Okay, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
As far as the power level and stuff like that, I'm a little questionable on there. Overall skills. But, just playing something new I think will be fun regardless. And thematically, it's a force that I want to build these guys into. So that's one way. One thing I want to try is we should just switch warbands once. Maybe it wouldn't be for the campaign or not. But you play the pagan peoples, I'll play the orange side. You'll probably learn something, don't you think?
Yeah, we could do that. We could do that.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, I don't know how that would work.
I don't have any models, and I don't really have any plans to be the pagan people. But there is something to be learned from switching.
Yeah, a simulator game, just for fun.
Exactly. That's it. We could do that. Yeah.
And then otherwise, if we're thinking about Ordenstadt in particular, this is the second or third time you went heavy Hearthguard. So do you?
I wouldn't. I think it's a trap. I mean, again, Rodge, just to kind of frame it up. When I'm doing these games, I'm running forces that I have figures painted for or I plan to paint. So it's an experiment. I could do goofy, crazy things, but I really like the tabletop simulator. To me, while I can do crazy things, I kind of like to learn there in that space, and then it informs my painting over here in my builds and the real world where I'm going to one day go to a table and play a person face to face. So, but you're right. It's a trap. I painted up all these Hearthguard. And no.
Yeah, so I took a long look at the board. So if I'm not building models for it, I don't usually do that because the problem is you're going to end up, making a purchase or something like that. So unfortunately, that did occur. So one thing I've realized the Ordenstadt here, Monty, is the levy. Those are the colonists, but also the subjugated, peoples they've been forced. So, I've got, my heathens would be perfect for that. So you could kind of do, I could do the levy with my models I have. I could do warriors on foot with what I got, the conscripts. And then I would just do the Teutonics all mounted, some mounted warriors and then a warlord. And that would be another build out using a lot of these models that I could do. So it's in the cars now. This project just keeps growing. More Saga boards become available to me. So thanks for that, Monty.
Yes.
But I guess I took a look at it, and I don't know, even when we were playing, I don't really look at the other guy's board that closely. And so one thing is in Age of Crusades, obviously there's a lot of push towards Hearthguards to reflect the era and the mounted elite shock troops. And how do you reflect that? Well, they need Hearthguard abilities to soup them up. So the Ordenstadt board has the Hearthguard abilities. Now, nicely, they also work on heroes as well, right. So that's very nice. But looking at it, is it enough to take these Hearthguards over warriors, especially when you're playing against me with my shooting and multiple activations and kind of how I'm rolling, because the warriors hold up just shooting just a lot better, just because you have more bodies. So you've been trying to make the Hearthguard work, and I think a pivot to warriors, I think, could probably work out a lot better. I mean, because you can take mounted guys and foot guys.
Yep.
And you can still take your levy with bows, and you can still use a lot of these abilities, basically all of them. Now, the two specific ones, these are actually give you defense dice, keep you alive. So, the way I was kind of looking at this, you could run a warlord and don't have any Hearthguard, but with these abilities, you can actually make them very hard to kill with an assassination run, versus, in that one game I took without any Hearthguard, you could just double moved, went in and killed my warlord outright. So that's always a threat, especially in Age of Crusades. But with these abilities queued up, and he's sitting next to the levy or something, if you use a rare, pop a levy, you can have 7 defense dice, in a combat with your warlord. And then you can Dark Crosses pure hearts. You can kind of do this same thing, but but taking a look at a lot of these abilities, Monty, I kind of starting to feel for you here about the overall strength of the board. It has a kind of trade-offs built in here, and most of these trades I wouldn't take. And I think I told you, even if they increase the number on each one of these by 1, 1 extra attack dice or 1 extra armor or something, taking a fatigue, removing models. I don't like to use Valhalla when I'm playing the Vikings, and this is kind of I mean, you can use them with levy, I guess, but yeah, they count for points for killing, and they add up. I guess one idea I had for you, Monty, is it clarifies in the like the little write-up section that a lot of these abilities that say remove a friendly figure within medium, they can use them on themselves.
Right.
So you could have, some suicide squads here.
Like
which
your
is
Viking
something I haven't seen.
Yes.
Yeah, like
right.
Valhalla.
Exactly.
You're going to die anyways. You could queue up a few of these and really do some damage here, kind of. Like, I don't know if you want to, a unit of 6 levies with javelins is pretty expendable. I don't know how much damage you could do necessarily, but that is an option, and I don't think I've seen you attempt to do that. But that might be the only way to kind of get the use out of some of these. And
so it's a superb point. In a battle not against the pagan people, I put my levy javelin in 6 packs and then use them to dish out in a battle with a rare, especially kicking out two fatigues. But the problem is, Rodge, you pull 1 rare, you can rest 3 units anywhere on the board. No restriction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can eat the fatigue I can dish quicker than I can dish it out. So some of the plays on here that work on other war bands, I kind of suss it out and I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work against Rodge. But I do think the 6 packs, like I was thinking that tyrants plus the 6 packs, kill one of your own guys. I could muff all 6 attacks and then I could just like, okay, great, re-roll them all.
Yeah, especially for like an assassination run
right.
on my warlord. Then I think it's really, the gain outweighs like the certain death, but you're probably facing. The other thing too is I've gone against your big archer units with my warlord multiple times. If you had these abilities queued up, I don't know that I would do that necessarily.
Right.
Because if you're going down,
yeah,
you can, it's like you're going to die anyways. Then you can use these abilities. They're unlocked. Now, you don't necessarily want dice just sitting on your board, but that's something I've done to you a couple times. Mm-hmm. So I think you can kind of feel something that I really relish. Hammering those crossbows or
I will never take those again. Sorry. It's gonna be levy shooters.
Yeah, so that could be an option for you. But yeah, otherwise it looks like a trick board. I think the magic sauce, like you said, knock Austin, which requires a rare, slay the pagans, is awesome. It's cool that these you work with the levies actually. So again, taking small levy units could work because that's the problem, especially with the Vikings or the last Romans, is you take these little levy units, you're just using your dice straight up to activate them. It's not working for you. So you've got a couple options there. Otherwise, it's kind of tough. You got some defensive abilities here, but there's nothing to get you extra attack dice, which is tough.
Right. Yeah, I would never play Dark Cross's Pure Hearts. I just can't. 2 uncommon, and then you're letting me kill a unit, kill a figure, and for each figure I get 2 attack and 2 defense. I mean, honestly, that's absurd.
Yeah, I mean, it'd have to 3 attacks or 3 attacks or 3 defense dice would bring it up to Valhalla kind of level. But even then, like I said, I'm not sure I would do it. Yeah, there's some
anyway, that's fine, and that's just played on Hearthguard Heroes. So you got 2 uncommons. You can only use it with Hearthguard Heroes, and then anyways, it's just like I look at that one. That's a dead ability, so I work around that one. I just don't ever do it. I will say again, not against the pagan people, but I managed to playing the Mutts one night between Knock Osten coming pretty steadily. having 2 points of levy, javelin, and like, dishing din a battle and little cheap shots at the end of my moves. And then at the end of the game, like Servants of God, when you're out of dice, I start killing those levy units, I refill my board, and when you're playing an objective-based game, suddenly my dead army that was working off of 3 Saga dice, I now have a full board and I can do something ridiculous like triple move over, punch, free the objective, do this, do that. You know what I mean? So even though I don't love this board against other war bands and late in the game, like, again, really Knockouston is so important. I don't love that it's a rare and you're subject to, like, what's your plan if you don't get it? But Servants of God can bail you with levies. Like, it's the end of the game, you got to do one thing to sneak out a win. Well, you don't have any dice? Well, I'm going to get dice.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, that's a really reliable way to get dice at the end of the game.
Right.
Having that full crack at it. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're getting games in against other war bands with the Ordenstadt.
With
don't
more success.
Judge everything based off the peoples there. And
right.
Yeah. I think after a few games now, Pagan People's very strong war band. And then also it's a war band too, where the more rares, just the better.
Oh yeah.
The better it gets. Where if you get 3 or 4 rares with Ordenstadt here, what do you even do?
Yeah.
I mean, you can knock Osten. You probably queue up Servants of God,
right?
Just to hold on to it, so you can get the knock Osten next turn. And that's about it. Sword Brothers, So, yeah. But I think next time, Eastern Princes. Looking forward to it. We'll get it on the schedule, my man.
And I have an idea. I can't say it because it's in my pocket for our next game.
Yeah.
One more secret sauce. We'll see how it goes. I think I've used the term snake bit. I think my ideas aren't fundamentally bad. I just think I just don't get all the pieces lined up. And now that I've shaken it through 3 times, we're going to do Pagan Peoples. Well, no, sorry, we're going to do Eastern Princes. If you're sure about that, I do have one last twist to try to get a little more juice out of this board, the Ordenstadt board. We'll see how it goes.
Cool. So you want to run the Ordenstadt against the Princes?
My gosh, ask me in a day and I might flip back. But I there's little pieces where the Crusaders would shine, and that's one way. And then the Ordenstadt, there's a way that I think I could maybe try to get just a little more juice out of this board. And it's in my head until I put it on the table. I just can't quite figure out if it's a dead idea or a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we will.
The virtual tabletop.
That's it.
That's a great point, just about running stuff that you're not sure if you want to use it or build it.
Yeah.
So you can see us continuing to use this even after the plague times.
Yes.
You, Monty?
Yes.
All right. Well, that's campaign update so far. No end in sight. The swamps of Baltic continue to devour.
The pagans have conquered Christian Europe, and all of history is changing.
We're making a move.
Rome is threatened.
Mm-hmm. Peoples are at the gates. So, okay. Well, thank you, Monty, for being a good sport with everything. And you'll get it. You'll get it here, buddy. We'll figure it out. Before we go, I guess 5 years, Monty.
Yes.
Now, what episode do you think you watched first? Did you watch from the beginning, or?
Boy, I came in pretty early because there's just nothing else like it. Seriously, I mean, that's it. So once I realized I could hear other people talk about how to run these war bands. We live in these little, our little world is kind of small. It's you and your buds. It might be, and then to hear someone else say, well, what I do is, you're like, oh my gosh, that's genius. I love it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was an early adopter. Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, the first video was posted March 24th, 2016.
Wow.
So we're recording this March 30th, 2021. So that's over 5 years ago. It was the third video that I ever made. And Monty, how many videos do you think are on the channel? So most of these are Saga Thursday, but not all of them.
Oh, man, you do a lot of content. I mean, you think once a month would be enough, so that's an easy math problem. But you really crank them out. I would guess, can I just say 90?
90. Well, Monty.
Uh-oh.
Camera's blocking the number here, but if I scrunch down, there are 214 videos.
So I'm only off by,
So yeah, that's kind of insane to think about. So I think I told you in the message. So the weird thing is, this is both. When I look back, it's both of these things at once. It's like 10 years ago. I don't know who the person is that started these videos, and then it's also at the same time. It's like 2 years ago, and like both of those are sitting in my head. And I think it has to be that way. I'm kind of getting the same feeling with my son, Dane. So I'm assuming that's kind of the same thing with kids. It goes quick, and then also sometimes not so quick. These tantrums here. So, yeah, I started 2016. So it took a while to get me going on Saga. So Silver Fox, Kevin Bruins, Mike Garrow, they've been working on me for probably like years, trying to get me to play Saga. And I'm not an early adopter to anything. I'll say that. I just like doing the same old. But my mind was open when the Age of Sigmar stuff started going on. So this is about the same time. Maybe this was before it. I don't recall exactly, but I got in so I did have a really early game of Saga 1.0 that didn't hook me, but it was a multiplayer game at a Warhammer event, and Buddy Domus put me in charge of the Skraelings, and just the way that board played, and it was very powerful, and you weren't using your matching Saga dice on that one. It used other people's, so it was lacking some of the magic, I think. So I didn't discover the magic at that time. And then the second time I played Kevin Bruins, and it came down to his Warlord was alive at the end, and it was 1.0. And there was that kind of a thing with the Warlord when no resilience, but you always slough a hit. So when all your units are depleted at the end of the game, it can be very difficult to kill that Warlord if he's always sloughing one hit.
Yep.
And I remember that I didn't like that. That left a bad taste in my mouth. And so I had done a podcast at that time, Point Hammered. So it was about Warhammer Fantasy. So I talked about Saga in that, but I wanted my own thing, and I knew that was winding down. I always wanted to kind of do something on YouTube, make videos. Like I made stupid videos like in the past. And so I kind of knew how to make everything. So I just decided to do it. And 5 years have gone by. One thing was, remember when they used to be weekly, Monty?
That was a little while ago.
Well, it was before your time. But your time is only you're coming up on 2 years here.
Yeah.
Just
moving quick. So, it's amazing.
It was before. Part of lining you up was how can I make it up to the people that they will no longer be monthly. I found the secret sauce here. His name's Monty.
That's great.
So yeah. If you're starting YouTube, everybody says do it weekly, so that's what I did, and that took a lot of effort, I will say.
That's huge.
One thing, I used to have to split the videos into two, but that was actually because I was already splitting them in two, because the computer that I started with, it didn't have enough like sauce power to process like an hour and a half video. So I'd have to, it'd go for 3 hours, and then at the end you'd have an error. And so like it'd take multiple tries to get it going. So I'd have to split them in two anyways. And then I was like, well, I mean, might as well just do 2 different videos here, give myself a break.
Yeah.
At some point I did get a new computer, and one of the basically the main reason I got the computer was the processing power to put the videos together. And, there's YouTube ads on these, Monty. So if I take in all my ad money and subtract the cost of the new computer, I think in about 3 or 4 years, I should break even on that. But I purchased microphones, everything out.
Yeah. It's a great setup.
Yeah, it's fun to do. It's fun to do it with you. And at some point here, I won't rule out a return to the weekly here. Circumstances can change. Things can happen. I want to thank everybody who has contributed to videos over the years. All the Europeans. I think Pip in Australia, I think, was one of my first people I talked to that I didn't actually know them. And I set up an interview with Pip just to talk about Saga in Australia. Hamza, Freddie ended up crashing at their houses when I visited them last year. Yeah, it's really cool to see where this goes.
Yeah.
Plenty of people in the States, part of the Minnesota crew, helping out. You help with plenty. Silver Fox, Mike, Kevin, Mike Mahalis helped out as well. Too many to name here. The Poles, Jan, Wojciech, Chris. Can't forget Andy Lyon, if I haven't already. So thank you to everybody. It's been fun. I'm definitely going to keep going. I think that'll be it for now, Monty. What do you say?
Yeah, well done, Rodge. It's a beastly amount of work, and you've been a machine. I love hearing the other voices. I love hearing how other people do things. I like the reports. I mean, every step of the way. You've made some nice tutorial type videos for helping people get into Saga 1. I remember you had stuff on Saga 2, rule changes, Age of Magic. You're breaking the content and new content as we all go along, and it's much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
The best part definitely is hearing from everybody, and the Saga Discord server is hopping. Not an early adopter, Monty, as you know, so I don't like commenting frequently, but I do like to pop in there and see what's going on, and I'm pretty tickled to see everybody talking about Saga. And
right.
If I can contribute in a little way, I think that's very cool. I guess if anybody has any favorite videos or comments over the last few years, or particularly memorable moments and anything, post below. I'd be curious to see. Let me know how long you've been watching the videos too. If anybody has stuck around over the full 5-year period, I'd be very interested to know, and give you a virtual handshake for that. But yeah, fun times, and looking forward to get more Saga on. I think future's bright. We got invasions on the horizon. We got more Ancients books on the way at some point here. I know Alex Buchel, you remember when Saga 2.0 dropped? There was a trailer with different ages shown. So he told me that everything seen in that video was started and being worked on. Wow. So that includes Samurai.
Yep.
Is something we haven't talked about. And then like mythical Greek stuff. So Age of Myth. So maybe more fantasy. Straddling the line between historical and fantasy. Mythological supplement could be on the way as well. So, Who knows what else? Definitely can move the timeline forward. Medieval, high medieval, 100 Years War stuff. Well, there's no reason it wouldn't work with the Saga rule set. And yeah, looking forward to see what the future holds. And I think we're done here, Monty.
That's it.
Thanks once again, buddy. Thank you for everyone for watching, subscribing, keeping this going. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a good one.
Good night.
Saga!